Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Thanks for joining us again on another great week this week, covering all things round 19 and getting to everything round 20. Mate, can you just believe for a second that we are already in round 20? I can't believe where the year has gone, even though things have been shut down recently and we haven't been able to go out as much and do as much things as we'd like to. It's crazy that we've already been through almost 20 rounds of rugby league, and as the near is coming near, as the end is coming near, sorry, it's getting very depressing. So taking every week as it comes. Guys, just wanted to start off letting you all know I'm thinking about everyone those that are locked down in Sydney. We've had an extension of another 4 weeks this week being announced, and we're going to be locked down for another 4. So just thinking of everyone and offering my services. If I can be of any assistance, of any help, please reach out through our social media platforms or on YouTube. We'd love to be able to assist in any way possible, and just like to extend a bit of help anywhere I can. So thinking about everyone, I know we've just got to stick together and just get through this together, and hopefully we'll come out the other side a lot better and stronger and not have to go through anything a bit ridiculous like this again. But guys, let's take it back to the podcast now. Let's go through the NRL ladder, which we haven't done in a bit of time. Got Storm coming first, tied with Panthers on 34 points. We've got the Rabbitohs in third on 32, with the Eels now fourth on 28. Fifth is Roosters on 26. Seagulls go to sixth on 24 points. And then there's a big buffer. There's a 6-point buffer between Seagulls and Sharks, between 6 and 7. Sharks, Dragons, and Raiders on 18 points. You got Titans on 16 and Knights on 16 as well, 10th and 11th. Tigers and Cowboys on 14. Then you got the Warriors on 12, the Broncos on 10, and the Dogs on 6 points. Now, let's cover everything around 19, guys. Raiders 12 defeating the Eagles 10, and a very good performance by the Raiders. I think they're starting to show why they are considered one of the dominant teams in the comp. They've gone through a very rough patch in the middle of the season. This is now their third win in a row, and I just thought everything they did was great. A very gritty performance. It was just so gritty. It was so tense. I believe their line speed as they came up off the line was fantastic. I loved how every time Eagles went and tried to make a bit of a break, they were just in their faces defending the whole time. And it was a very intense game from them. I think to me it was the game of the year for its intensity. I reckon if even Eagles had won that game with that try in the corner in the last second, still would have been a game of the round for me. Just how intense it was. It was so tight. Considering we've had so many blowouts this year, it was such a good game to just watch and just to be part of and just to see what was happening by those two teams. Raiders really coming to themselves. Para, all year they've struggled to cement a lot of their opportunities, especially in games that really mattered. Now this is their first loss to a team that's sitting on the bottom half of the eight, and unfortunately they just weren't at their best. And when they needed to ice those moments, especially that try, what could have been on Nathan Brown in the first half, all he needed to do was pick up that ball and just put it down under the post. It would have changed the whole game around. It wasn't meant to be. He just couldn't get it right. He knocked it on there. And then just that last second effort, I thought Jordan Rapana was exceptional the whole game. Really turned the game on its head and has really come of his own, especially in that fullback role. It's his first game of fullback in a very long time, and I thought it was the best I've ever seen him play in so long. Now, with the Eagles, though, but it just makes things very, very tough for the Eagles. Especially missing that try in that last second of the game was a moment they really needed to ice it, and they didn't ice it. It was very disappointing to see that. But it brings me to the point with the Eagles that it just brings me a lot of concern for their run home. They've got the Eagles coming up, in that squad. Apart from the Eagles, they verse Rabbitohs, they verse Melbourne, they verse Panthers as well. And they verse a lot of the top 4 teams, top 5 teams, as we close off the season. So they've got a lot to work on, these Eagles, and they need to quickly whip up in shape, and they really need to prove to everyone that they're bigger than and better than what everyone's been saying about them. They need to find that new level, and they need to find that next level to take them up against those big teams. We've seen them do it against Melbourne early in the year, but they just showed that inconsistency when they couldn't do it against Panthers a few weeks back. So losing to a side like the Raiders would dent their hopes a little bit, but they've got bigger problems coming up in terms of the Roosters, who they miss everyone, but they're still playing well, in terms of the Storm, in terms of the Panthers, in terms of the Rabbitohs, and the Panthers. So they've got a lot to worry about, these Eagles, and it wouldn't have helped them losing that game. But yeah, as I said, Jordan Rapana, for me, 25 runs, 260 metres, 2 line breaks, 15 tackle breaks, offload, and that try saver in the dying seconds of that match. The Roosters 28 defeated the Knights 8, and it's amazing how Roosters continue to lose players and they can still find ways to win. It's very impressive. You got to look at the way just how dominant they were going, especially off the back of James Tedesco. He's such an all-round player, and he stepped up when he needed to the most. And we talk about those players that need to step up when their troops are down. James Tedesco stepped up. JWH has stepped up. Angus Crichton has stepped up. Titilu Tupanua has stepped up. And Joey Manu even. There's big players that are really stepping up in those key moments. Defeating a Knights side who are just stupid. Matt Ikuvalu and Billy Smith on either side went down injured. Very unfortunate. And they had Angus Crichton and Titilu Tupanua playing in the centres at one point. Adam Kieran came off the bench, I think covered one of the centre positions. When you know that they are vulnerable on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, surely you know at some point you attack those areas, and only those areas. It just seemed that it didn't sink into the Knights. It just didn't cross their mind. It's so dumb. I don't understand why they never dominated the attack on the edges. They came out fast, had a strong start, and then they just dipped. It's like the two players that went down was more of a burden to the Knights than it was something that they should have taken advantage of. Very poor from them. They're a joke of the league. I reckon they're the biggest joke in the NRL right now. And I'm talking about a Knights side who have such a good forward pack and such a dud back line that, Bulldogs are coming last. Broncos are the second last. Two of the biggest clubs in Australian football, in the NRL. We're the two biggest clubs, and these Knights are a worse joke than us, and we're sitting at the bottom of the table. It's very disappointing. They had no direction. They had no guidance. Very poor from them. Very, very, very poor from them. But I thought Angus Crichton and Steve Tupanua really stepped it up. Tupanua scoring 2 tries, 9 runs, 102 metres, 2 line breaks, 2 tackle breaks, offload 26 tackles. Angus Crichton, 17 runs, 226 metres, 2 line breaks, 2 tackle breaks, offload 16 tackles. Just big performances from those big key players to really just prove their experience in a Rooster side that need as much experience as they can get. Storm 20 defeated the Cowboys 16. The Storm get the job done. They're 15 or 16 straight now. Wasn't the best performances for them. They had about 11 to 13 errors in that game. I know that a lot of them were trying to do little muck around things against the Cowboys because they had them on the ropes at one point. But look, I thought it was a better game from the Cowboys, especially defensively. I was expecting a blowout of the game. And I thought when Hamilton Tabuai-Fidow left that side with that emergency appendectomy that he needed to get, in the late minute, they chucked Drake Grenville at fullback, and I laughed so much. And he actually played all right. Turns out he had, coming through the ranks, he was a fullback. And then he got moved to hooker later on and then progressed into his career as a hooker. But he did surprisingly okay. And I just thought that, the Cowboys, while they could have been better and could have done as much as they could, missing a few reinforcements, I thought they played a lot better than a lot of teams expected them to. But look, it's another loss that they didn't need. And the Storm just continued to sit there in cruise control, 15 wins on the trot, and just aiming for that premiership at the end of the year. Christian Walsh, 20 runs, 170 metres, 2 tackle breaks, 5 offloads, and 33 tackles. And just another good performance from Christian Walsh. And he played a good 65 minutes of that game. I think it's the most he's played all year for the Storm. So it was really good to see him punch out some big minutes there. And just to dominate a Cowboys side that they tried their guts out. And they played a lot better than a lot of people expected, but just couldn't really get the job done. So Rabbitohs 60 defeating the Warriors 22. And it was just an absolute onslaught from the Bunnies in terms of scoring points. And even to an extent, leaking points. The attack is sublime. They were missing Alex Johnston there, but, they had good cover on the wings in, Josh Mantle scoring a double, Jackson Paulo grabbing one as well. And I just thought that they know how to score points for Rabbitohs. But they just keep leaking a lot of points. 22 points to leak is a lot of points, if you're considered a top team. For the Warriors, it's not good enough. They had a lot of reinforcements missing as well. But it's just not good enough. They're going backwards. The additional injuries don't help their case as well. And they just need to find a way to kind of stick together. Now that their families are with them in the bubble, they're starting to run out of excuses. But I need them to be better. They have to be better. I feel like any signing they make is just a quick fix signing. And they never plan long term. And that's why the loss of Gus Gould is so pivotal to them, because they really needed to plan ahead and couldn't do that. And they just keep making stupid signings that are not benefiting them whatsoever. Matt Lodge comes in, plays dominant, and then gets suspended. Chad Townsend plays a game or two, then gets injured. Like signings that they really don't need to get sorted for them as a short-term fix. It's very sad. and they'll continue to slide until someone comes in that has a bit of a brain and changes everything up for them. Keon Kolomatangi was a standout for me amongst all the Rabbitohs in the pack. James Ward, 200 metres. Tom Burgess, 2 tries. But Keon Kolomatangi, 25 runs, 234 metres, a try, line break, 4 tackle breaks, offload, and 26 tackles. Just a really good performance from him. And all the Rabbitohs in attack. But look, defence is an issue, and if they can sort out their defence, they'll be talked about with Melbourne and Panthers as the 2 teams that can win the comp. Sea Eagles 4-4 defeated the Tigers 24, and I just love watching the Sea Eagles play. It's so entertaining to watch. The way Turbo plays his game, the way Cherry Evans, the way he guides that team around, Josh Schuster running up on the edges, and even Kieran Foran, just having that experience head with Daly Cherry Evans is just making things really good for the Sea Eagles, and they put on another clinical performance in attack, leaked about 24 points in total, which is disappointing, and it just added more misery onto the Tigers. The Tigers, who I thought would have taken a bit more confidence out of that game from Brisbane last week, just really let it slip. And look, losing Luke Garner and Alex Seyfarth to injuries in the first half didn't help their cause. But look, they can't string back-to-back wins together to save themselves. So it's very disappointing to see the current decline of the Tigers at the moment. Well, look, in saying that, you've got to give credit to the Sea Eagles because they're just chiming in big performances week in, week out, and they're just dominating. Tom Trbojevic had 25 runs, 324 metres, 3 line breaks, 8 tackle busts, 2 offloads. He's just dominant from Tom Trbojevic. And as long as he stays fit and healthy and that whole squad sticks together, especially with their run home, they could be the smoky to take out this year's comp. For the Tigers, I think they just need to stick together and just continue to work hard. And they need to start thinking about smart recruitment decisions. Talk of Curtis Scott potentially joining the club is an absolute joke because they keep recruiting players that don't fit into what they're trying to build or what Maguire needs. I think he's just looking for quick fixes to get some wins so that the pressure is released off him, but that's not the way to go about it. Panthers 18 defeated the Broncos 12. And this is the second game where the Panthers have defeated the Broncos by 6 points or less in a very tight contest. You can see that they're really struggling without their full squad, and you can see just how poor they've been. They've missed 60 plus tackles in that game against the Broncos. If you're missing 60 tackles against a side like Melbourne, you can understand, but against the Broncos, look, I think it's very poor. They're missing their full squad. Losing 3 more to injury on the weekend doesn't help their case, but they did enough to hold on. They beat a Broncos side who were very resilient in defence. I think the first half an hour of defence was very resilient. And they just defended their line and kept defending, and just couldn't get the job done in attack. I think that's a very disappointing part. If they had a clinical attack, they could have put the Panthers away. It really dented their chances of coming first this year. But because they're inexperienced in the side and no one to really lead the team around the park, it's become a sight for sore eyes for Broncos fans. But look, as I said, I give it to them. They were extremely resilient at the beginning, but their attack was not in shape, and they couldn't get that right. For the Panthers, we saw 2 of the best props in the game go at it. James Fisher-Harris against Payne Haas, and of course, they were the 2 best players on the field. James Fisher-Harris, 19 runs, 193 metres, 2 tackle breaks, offload 48 tackles. He will be missed when he's gone. He's going to be away for a couple of weeks due to the birth of his child, and he's the best prop in the game by far. To lose him, especially with the Panthers not having Nathan Cleary. They don't have Brian Thor, who's gone down for out for 6 weeks. Tyron May, the backup half, they don't have. They're starting to struggle, and they're going to continue to struggle, especially with James Fisher-Harris leaving that side and leaving that massive hole in the forward pack. Payne Haas, 20 runs, 213 metres, 93 post-contact metres, a line break, 14 tackle breaks, offload 43 tackles in a 72-minute monster effort. I shouldn't be surprised by these numbers, but he's just so dominant, he's just so good, and he continues to improve and build for these Broncos. Which is why they talked about him getting a 10-year, $10 million deal. Because he's just so good and he's so dominant. Speaking of dominant, Titans 32 defeated the Dragons 10. And I thought the Titans really dominated a side like the Dragons, who are just an absolute basket case of a club at the moment. I thought Toby Sexton's debut was very solid. Converting 6 from 6 goals. Scoring a try himself I thought was great. And I liked what the Titans did here and injected in Dave Fafita off the bench. Playing 54 minutes and he was still the best on field by far. 15 runs, 160 metres, a try, 2 line breaks, 2 line break assists, a try assist, 13 tackle breaks, 5 offloads, 15 tackles. Attacking stats by attacking stats by attacking stats. He really dominated when he came on that field. and put it to a Dragon side who, as I said, they're just a basket case. No one is on the same page. They can't field their full side together. Even if they could field the full side together, they would still not be putting out good performances. There's just so much going on within the club at the moment, and there's becoming a basket case of a side that it's very hard to kind of just sit here and think that the Dragons will be on the rise. The players are at fault. It's nothing to do with the coaching staff. The coaching staff didn't ask those 12 players to go have a barbecue. The coaching staff didn't ask those 12 players to go run amok and put this season in jeopardy and put the whole comp in jeopardy. There are people I've been speaking to who try to say Griffin's this, Griffin's that, but it's not Griffin. It's the players who are stupid that don't commit to the one cause of doing their best week and week out to just at least make the finals. They're still sitting in 8th, but with their draw coming up, I don't see them winning another game this year. And it will surprise me if they do. You still got, within dramas in the camp, you still got Lomax and Alvaro not signing that waiver to go back and play. They're both available to play. And their experience is needed at a time like this. But they're just at the moment, they're just not willing to budge. But look, the Titans just dominated the Dragon side, as I said, who just don't really have their hearts in it at the moment. And it's a good little boost for the Titans to try propel their way up, to try potentially grab a spot in the last, in like 6th, 7th or 8th in that top 8. In the last game of the round, Sharks 44 defeated the Dogs 24. Sharks put in all the work in the first half and got out to like a 30-6 halftime lead. Obviously helped by Luke Thompson's sin binning, but then the Sharks just let it slip in the second half. They just let it dip. They lost Johnson in the first half. They had 1 or 2 tries denied in that first half as well, and then it just dipped from there. Bulldogs come out in the second half, and like I've always said, they love to play catch-up football. They like to think they can make the impossible possible every week. Doesn't work like that. You can't just be doing that all the time. And it didn't help the cause when Luke Thompson got sin bin for that late shot. It didn't help him at all. They went through 3 tries in that time. And it really stuffed up the Dogs there because they were trying to show a bit of resilience and a bit of fight back, but it just didn't work out the way it needed to work out in that game. And you looking at Sione Katoa play, my goodness, I love when he scores tries. And the way his just athletic ability is something else. How he leaps up and keeps the ball down in the field of play. He was unlucky to miss the first one, but then the second one he got was just sublime. After the ball had bounced and he had some work to do, and to still put it down, I love him. I love the work he's been putting in. Speaking of who I love in that Shark side, CSC for Talakai, 18 runs, 214 metres, a try, a line break, 8 tackle breaks, offload 13 tackles, and a big 80-minute effort from him. And I thought, even though Luke Thompson got sin binned, I thought he was dominant when he came out, and he really tried to make it up for his team. 19 runs, 204 metres, a try, 2 line breaks, a try assist, 10 tackle breaks, 2 offloads, and 32 tackles. And it's the best game I've seen Luke Thompson play in the NRL, by far. And I'm very excited to see what he can do after the 3-week, he serves that 3-week suspension, and what he can do next year with a new forward pack around him and better backs to finish off a lot of the players that he tries to put his best foot forward for. But yeah, Dogs lose another game, and we're looking increasingly likely to win that wooden spoon. And the Sharks are just floating in between that inconsistent to consistent line. They're just floating. They don't know where they stand at the moment. News around the NRL world. And the Broncos have released Tavita Pangai Jr. to the Panthers effective immediately. So then he confirmed the 3-year deal with the Bulldogs. That's signed, sealed, and delivered. The Broncos turned down a swap between Xavier Coates and Branko Lee, between him and Storm. So they believe that they can still use Xavier Coates this year, even though he's been dropped. James Gavay has left Super League early due to family reasons, and he's looking for an opportunity in the NRL. They've only got a few days before they can finalise all their squads. It's been pushed out to August 2. The likelihood of him landing a club is very, very slim, but he could potentially go to the Warriors now that Leeson Armour has moved on from the club, which I'll get to in a second. Appleside Coruscant suspended fined $35,000, suspended for 2 games for his COVID breach for bringing a woman into the bubble for Game 2. He was only found out late last week about it, and it's put his Origin career in serious risk. And Australia and New Zealand have pulled out of the World Cup later this year due to player welfare and player safety, especially around COVID in England. It's a big call, and I think we all know that Australia and New Zealand are the 2 most dominant international teams in the World Cup, and especially in international games. You got a team like Tonga who's on the rise, and then after that, there's just a massive gap. So look, while it's not a great and not an ideal thing to happen, it's exciting to see teams like England, France, even Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Lebanon, US to get a crack to try win that World Cup without having to verse teams like Australia and New Zealand that have just put it on them consistently. Sharks considering making a play for Luke Brooks, bringing him into that side. Maybe a change of scenery could help his game, and Craig Fitzgibbon's entertaining that idea at the moment. Mitch Pearce has been linked with the Bulldogs. Maybe get him out of Newcastle and just get him to be joined with Kyle Flanagan and Matt Burton, Brendan Wakeham. Just to get him experience in that side, and Jake Averillo as well. Now, the government have come out, the Queensland government have come out, said that if there's any more breaches of any players breaching, they'll be shut down for good if there's any serious breaches. And while they're all coming out and acting all big and macho, take it easy. It's not going to get to that point because they're making a killing at the moment. And with the finals definitely moving to Queensland because of the outbreak we're having in Sydney at the moment, they're loving the idea that they can potentially get the grand final there. So they're just acting very tough, and I don't think there's any signs of them shutting the comp down. Knights have signed Dave Gagai for 3 years. Wayne Bennett has confirmed. So we're waiting official confirmation from the Knights. But Gagai will be leaving the Rabbitohs and signing a 3-year deal with the Knights. Matt Moreland's re-signed with the Sharks to the end of 2022, taking a massive pay cut to stay at the club. And the Sharks have also signed Dale Finucane for 4 years on a $2.6 million deal. So out of all the 8 clubs that were vying for his deal, it was Dale Finucane deciding to go to the Sharks, which is a massive coup for that side. Tigers have made their interest known in Aaron Woods after missing out on TPJ and Dale Finucane. Very embarrassing when you kind of think about it. Broncos are interested in Dynamis Louis, as well as Ryan James, which we mentioned last week as well. RTS and Lisa Armel will be heading back to New Zealand early before the borders close over there. And RTS will be looking to start his rugby journey a little early as he transitions from league to union. And Lisa Armel will be heading back due to family reasons. He isn't signed beyond this year, so it could be interesting to see what will happen to him. But I just wanted to give a little chat to the guys a little bit about Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and just the impact he's had on the game. And we saw him come through the ranks at the Sydney Roosters, and freak of a player, great winger. Anytime he has opportunity at fullback, he was a machine. He had won a trophy with the Roosters, had represented his country, had won trophies with his country, had won some big games and made it to the top level, all by the age of 21, 22. And he took a $1 million a year deal to go to the Warriors and to just be back home. Unfortunately for him, the last 2 years, everything due to COVID, having to move out to Australia. But he's been such a phenomenal character for the game. You've never heard anything bad about RTS. You've never seen anything bad about him. The way he played his game on the field, that lethal left to right foot step was crazy. It was so good to watch. Always get flashbacks of that time where he was in Melbourne versus the Storm, and he put that step on young Tonga to score in the corner. And every step he's ever done as he's broken through, his footwork was lightning, and just what he brought to the game of NRL, his athleticism and his ability to just control the game and make the game his own, it was just unreal to watch. And Roger, mate, all the best to you and your family as you move on to the next phase in your career. And I hope that if you get the chance to come back to league, that you come back and we'd love to see you back. But just a shout out to him and for everything and for making rugby league enjoyable. And me being one of his biggest fans is really sad to see him leave, especially early. But understanding the situation, made all the best. And I hope you do kill it in rugby. And I'd love to see you play for the All Blacks, which would be really, really cool to see. Onto the Warriors, though, they offered Joey Manu $1 million a season from 2023 to play 5/8. So the money that they're taking out from RTS, I want to give to Joey Manu. Which could be a big deal for Joey Manu. He's proven to play 5/8 pretty well in the times that he's had at the Roosters. The Roosters have been doing what they can to keep him. CSL Takiara has been offered a rich contract in England and could be seeking an early release. So that's been ramping up over the last few days. Josh Hannay is committed to being the assistant coach of Sharks in 2022 and has signed a deal to that length as well. Kurt Mann has re-signed with the Knights for 2 years. The Rabbitohs, Eels and the Sharks are interested in Murray Taulagi, but he's expected to re-sign with the Cowboys. Craig Bellamy has finally put pen to paper with a deal with the Storm. He'll continue to coach until he feels the time is right to give up, and then he will become a director of football for the Storm, and he will have a say in who will take reins as the next coach. James Roberts breaks COVID lockdown rules, going outside into the open air for cigarettes to have a cigarette. He's used that as a mental health reason, and he's been fined $7,500 and suspended for a game as well. Anthony Milford is expecting to sign a 2-year deal. We're waiting official confirmation at this stage from the Rabbitohs. Could be a $300,000 deal for 2 years. Paul Vaughan has signed a deal with the Bulldogs for 1 year just to prove that he deserves to be back in the game and to prove everyone wrong, and to just try to clean up his reputation a little bit. Curtis Scott was with an immediate move to the Tigers. The Tigers have distanced themselves from those talks, and they'll be not pursuing Curtis Scott. About time they made a smart decision. George Tafua, Tavita Fanu, Dale Copley, and Josh Dugan have been linked with a loan move to the Roosters, who has a massive shortage in the outside backs at the moment. It's believed that Dale Copley will be heading there by the end of the season, while there's still discussions with Funa and Tafua, and Roosters are not necessarily too keen on Josh Dugan. And the last bit of news, the Roosters are very keen on signing someone like Brendan Smith into their joint with the incoming of contract 2023. It's now the Bulldogs, the Titans, and the Roosters circulating him, but come November 1, a lot more clubs will be interested in signing Brendan Smith. So he could be a new asset for the team in 2023, the 17th team in Brisbane, if that is still to go ahead, which is looking less and less likely at this stage due to COVID. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that and see what happens. But yeah, Roosters very keen on Brendan Smith and trying to get him to the Bondi club. Now we're going to move over to round 20s, ins, outs, and whereabouts. We've got the Roosters coming up against the Eels. Josh Morris returned to the side and take the spot of Billy Smith, with Joe Marner shifting to the wing and Adam Kieran coming in at centres. And Siosiua Takiaho has been named on the bench with Fletcher Baker to make way. For the Eels, Tom Opportunity is back after dealing with family issues, so Will Penasini will go to the reserves, and Bryce Currat will take the spot of Maratini Kore on the bench. And I'm expecting Eels to win this one by 12 points, and I'm not expecting it to be a big blowout of a game, but I'm expecting the Eels to win this by 12 points. Tigers come up against the Warriors. Luke Garner is replaced by Sean Blue on the side after that ankle injury. Thomas McKaylee is out, replaced by Joe Hingawi. Moses Mbai goes to the starting side, taking Junior Porter's place in the centres. Tom Mamoni, Michael Cheekham, and Alex Toll come onto the bench with Alex Seyfarth out with a knee injury. For the Warriors, Peter Uku will play 5'8" with Cody Nikorima shifting to the bench. Chad Townsend's out, replaced by Sean O'Sullivan. Jermaine Tanua-Brown has finished his stint at the Dragons a week early because they've got a lot of injuries. He will fill in the spot at prop for Adam Fanua-Blake, who's out with a finger injury. Matt Lodge is suspended for one game, so Ben Malok-Masila will come back into the side starting prop. And Taniela Otukolo will start at hooker with Tavago moving into lock and Josh Curran actually out of the side as well. And Kane Evans will come into the bench to take the spot of Lisa Narmel. In this game, I think with the amount of injuries that the Warriors have, I'm going to go the Tigers, and I'll go the Tigers by 8 points. Broncos are coming up against the Cowboys. Thomas Flegler is suspended, which Keenan Palacia is going to move to the starting side, and Tess Everybody will come back onto the bench, while Danny Levi will play his first game since May. And Ben Hampton returns to take the spot of Dejan Arce in that side. And I'm going to go the Cowboys. I think Cowboys are due for a win. They should get one over their long-term rivals, the Broncos. And I see that happening by 4 points. Dragons come up against the Rabbitohs. Tyrell Sloan will take the spot of Matt Duffy, who's been dropped. Corey Norman will come back into the side in the centres, with Jaden Sullivan retaining the spot at 5'8". Jack DeBellin, Jack Bird, and Blake Laurie will serve their bands this week from that barbecue. Fama Vasili, Billy Burns, and Phil Maono will be in the starting side. Jermaine Tanua-Brown, as I said, back at the Warriors, and Maguire Droft have been left out of the side. Jaden Hunt and Jackson Ford jump back onto the bench, and Cody Ramsey is out with a wrist injury, replaced by Talatau Amoni. For the Rabbitohs, Cameron Murray is suspended for a game, and Jai Arrow moving into the starting side. Campbell Graham is back, so Tony Milne goes out of the side, and Liam Knight makes his return on the bench, and is joined there by Black Taffy, with Braden Burns moving into the reserves as well. I'm going to go the Rabbitohs here by 40 points. That doesn't feel very slack, but I think they're just going to slaughter the Dragons with the amount of players that they're missing as well. And they won't be looking to concede any as well. So I reckon it'll be a clean sweep for the Rabbitohs here. Block a 40-zip scoreline. Knights come up against the Raiders. Bradman Best is back at take the spot of Dominic Young, who drops out, and Ari Tuala will move to the wing. Dave Clemmer will take the spot on the bench, pushing Jack Johns out of the side. For the Raiders, Jack Whiten back in the side, taking the spot of Matt Frawley, and Elliot Whitehead comes in for White Sutton, with Hudson Young moving into jersey 13. And I want to go Raiders to go 4 in a row. I think the way they're going at the moment, they'll be able to put it over a side like the Knights, and I'm excited to see just how long the Raiders can keep up this momentum. Storm come up against the Panthers in what is to be a match of the round. Cameron Munster, Dale Finucane, Felice Kafrisi are back in the side, with Cooper Johns and Trent Loiro out of the side, and Tui Kamikamika moving to the bench, and Asafa Solomona has been rested this week. For the Panthers, Robert Jennings is into the side to replace Brian To'o, who's out for 6 weeks with ankle syndesmosis injury. Tyrone May is out as well with an MCL injury, with Matt Burton moving to 5'8", and Brett Naden coming in the centres, and Jerome Loire playing halfback. Isaiah Yeo is being replaced after that sickening head knock and will be replaced by Matt Eisenuth. Liam Martin will cover prop to take the spot of James Fisher-Harris. And I think with Panthers having too many injuries at the moment, Storm will get their 16th win in a row, and they will do that comfortably by 18 points. Bulldogs come up against the Titans. Adam Elliott is back from injury with that cheekbone injury, so he comes into the spot, takes the spot of Luke Thompson, who's suspended for that late hit on the weekend, out for 3 weeks. So obviously, Munga Whangai will go into the starting side. Josh Jackson will go into lock. Kyle Flanagan will take the spot of Lachlan Lewis on that side. Matt Dury will join Simon Whangai on the bench. And Joe Stimson will now be in the side with that suspension to Luke Thompson. And Renouf Tony will be out of the squad altogether. The only change for the Titans that Dave Fafita is back in the starting side and Bo Firma's on the bench. And I want to say I see the Bulldogs win. We are due. We are getting closer. We just haven't seemed to get it yet. But it's going to be tough if Dave Fafita is going to play the way he played last week. It'll be a very, very tough ask. And the last game, Sharks are going to come up against the Seagulls. Sean Johnson's out for the next 4 to 8 weeks with a hamstring issue. Is replaced by Braden Trindle. And Connor Tracy is moving to number 6 with Chambers moving into the centres. Adam Tolman is back from suspension with Rudolph returning to lock and Williams onto the bench with Moreni Hiroti out of the 21 altogether. And for the Seagulls, Curtis Sirinen and Carl Lawton take the spots of Josh Aloye, who's suspended, and Sean Kepi, who is out for the rest of the year due to, at this stage, for the next couple of weeks due to family reasons. I believe he's having a kid, and he will be out of the squad for at least the next month or so. And I'm going to go to the Seagulls this game. They're missing a lot of experience with Sean Johnson and Moreland in the halves. And I think Seagulls will just run rampant as long as Tom Turbo and Cherry Evans fire up. Guys, thanks for joining me in another episode of League Chat with the Stat. I really do appreciate your ongoing and continuous support. You can find us on YouTube and other podcasting streams, as well as Facebook and Instagram. As I said, guys, for those that are remaining in Sydney, let's stick together. Let's get through this time. And if there's anything you guys need, please shout out. Let me know. And we'll love to assist you in any way I can. But guys, enjoy round 20. Let's hope the Bulldogs get a win this week and try to get ourselves at the bottom of the ladder. Enjoy, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you next week. Take care.